Test, test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You good?
Okay, good. We're good. Thank you. Yeah, so just be aware that that's why we keep pointing to the wall.
Tom, I'm going to use the bathroom.
Anywhere else you can be with that. With that. I don't have the shirt.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Ambassador Erdán will deliver remarks on the developments taking place in Israel, and then he will take a few questions after. Please, if you're called on, remember to introduce yourself, both your name and the station that you're from. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The past days have been devastating for each and every Israeli. Israel suffered an unprecedented attack, and the number of casualties is catastrophic, truly unfathomable. Over the past 2 days, following Hamas's surprise attack on Israel, my country has suffered hundreds of fatalities. Yesterday, in the early morning of the Jewish Sabbath and on a Jewish holiday, savage Hamas terrorists fired thousands of rockets into Israel. But this was only the beginning. As rockets rained down indiscriminately upon Israeli towns and cities, hundreds of Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel and began a barbaric pogrom of unparalleled magnitude. Ruthless terrorists gunned down innocent Israeli civilians in the streets, murdering anything that moved, anything. I'll show you just one example. Just look at this photo of bodies of women strewn in the street, in a bus stop, innocents murdered in cold blood. These animal-like terrorists broke into homes, gathered entire families into rooms, and shot them point blank, as if they were stomping on insects. Grandparents and the elderly, among them Holocaust survivors who endured the Nazis, were violently dragged from their homes, this time by Hamas, and taken into Gaza. Can you get me the photo of the Holocaust survivor? זה לא פה. אם אני אומר זה לא. Look at this grandmother being forced to hold a Hamas terrorist rifle as he takes a picture with her. This is inhumane. Inhumane. Mothers and their babies, as well as babies separated from their mothers, were brutally taken hostage. Just look at this video now. This mother is crying as she clutches her 2 precious babies before being put on a truck to Gaza. These are war crimes, blatant, documented war crimes. But tragically, the abominations don't end here. Hamas terrorists happened upon an outdoor party of hundreds of young Israelis celebrating the holiday weekend. These savages gunned down Jewish revelers just like Nazi death squads in the 1940s. Hundreds were butchered, their bodies mutilated and defiled. And those who survived were taken to Gaza. Listen to this young girl screaming as she is kidnapped, separated from her friend, not knowing what fate awaits her. Try to comprehend the magnitude of this situation. Try to digest the ruthless inhumanity. I have seen shocking footage, graphic images that will forever be seared in my brain. What we are witnessing are war crimes, blatant, barbaric war crimes, slaughtering civilians, abusing hostages, taking babies from their mothers. There are no words to describe such savagery. I don't want to imagine what is happening right now to all of those innocent Israeli civilians being held captive in Gaza, the horrors they are enduring. Look at this, and do not forget it. The horrors. This is Israel's 9/11. This is Israel's 9/11, and Israel will do everything to bring our sons and daughters back home. These images are horrifying. They are hard to see, and they are impossible to fully internalize. But I'm showing you all of this for a reason. Today, many members of the international community are supporting Israel, yes. But if history has taught us anything, we know that tomorrow that may not be the case. The international community, and particularly the UN and the Security Council, have a very short memory when it comes to Israel. The terror that we endure quickly becomes a side note. But this time will not be the same. We will not let the world forget the atrocities our country suffered. I want you all to remember what sadistic evil Israel is currently at war with. The world must not forget what I have shown you today. Hamás is a genocidal Islamist jihadist terror organization. It is no different than ISIS. It is no different than Al-Qaeda. There is no reasoning with genocidal jihadists. They do not want dialogue. They do not want conversation. They want one thing and one thing only: the annihilation of the Jewish state. This is a direct quote from their charter. The day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews and kill them. This is the Hamas charter. And it also says that whenever a Muslim encounters a Jew, he must butcher him. That's the Hamas charter. Internalize this. They want to butcher me. They want to butcher my children, my people, and my nation. They will not stop until they murder every single one of us. And this is precisely why this atrocity is Israel's 9/11. From now, nothing will be as it was. I promise you. Today, we are shattering the paradigm. We are changing the equation. For 17 years, since Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza, and since Hamas came to power, the world has tried to reason with these terrorists, barbaric terrorists. The international community sought to rehabilitate Gaza, giving tens of billions of dollars in aid. Friends, these funds did not go to building schools or hospitals. It was exploited only for terror. Every inch of Gaza has become part of Hamas's war machine, a war machine. And you know it. Money is fungible. It enters Gaza, and then it goes straight to building terror tunnels, rocket launch pads, missile manufacturing sites, and other terror infrastructure. Economic incentives cannot change genocidal ideologies. I repeat, economic incentives cannot change genocidal ideologies. It couldn't have worked with ISIS, it couldn't have worked with Al-Qaeda, and it doesn't work with Hamas. The era of reasoning with these savages is over. Over. Now is the time to obliterate Hamas's terror infrastructure, to completely erase it, so that such horrors are never committed again. And the international community must give Israel its full support. Mark my words, Israel may be under attack today, but this is not only a war against or on Israel. This is a war on the free world. It is a war on civilization. Israel is at the forefront of the war on terror, and if we do not succeed, the whole world will pay the price. As the Security Council prepares to meet today, Israel has one sole demand. Hamas's war crimes must be unequivocally condemned. This unimaginable atrocity must be condemned. Israel must be given steadfast support to defend ourselves, to defend the free world. Israel will not accept any false, immoral comparisons between a savage terror group that targets innocent and the democratic state of Israel. This is not the comparison that the UN or the Security Council can do. There is no reconciling with genocidal terrorists. Israel will exact a heavy price on Hamas so that what we witnessed will never repeat itself. In the wake of the Holocaust, the world swore, never again. This very body, the UN, was established on the ashes of the Holocaust. Yet yesterday, we watched as hundreds of Jews were massacred in cold blood. This is a never again moment. We are a resilient people, and we have faced hardships in the past. We have always overcome our challenges, and today will be no different. Israel will fight back, and Israel will prevail. Thank you.
It's Pamela Falk from CBS News. Thank you for the briefing. Do you expect a unity statement out of the Council? And if not, which countries do you think might resist that? And can you tell us anything about hostages, including Israelis and Americans and other nationalities? Thank you.
What was your second question?
Are there American hostages?
Regarding American hostages, I can't get now into details. Obviously, it's an ongoing war now, and we have to be responsible now and double-check everything, so I cannot comment on this question. Regarding our demands/expectations, as I said, it's hard to imagine countries objecting or our expectations, but we can never know. As I said, our only expectation is the obvious expectation that the UN that was founded, and especially the Security Council, to prevent wars, to fight terrorism, would and will condemn unequivocally the Hamas's atrocities and defend Israel's right to defend itself. That's it, as simple as it sounds.
Thank you.
Yes, please, in the back. Your name?
Michelle Kellerman with National Public Radio. First of all, is there evidence that either Iran or other UN member states were involved at all in the planning for this? And secondly, are you asking the UN, the ICRC, any other international organization to help with regard to the hostages?
We cannot, and obviously we're not going to share our plans and military plans and strategy because it's a war, and we do not intend to share our plans with the enemy. What was your other question? Oh, regarding Iran. Let me say that, again, we don't want to share intelligence. We could see in the last few weeks maybe that's a separate issue to discuss. We could see the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and how he criticized any country that wants to normalize relations with Israel, how he declared that they want the annihilation of the Zionist regime, as he calls it. He tweeted many anti-Semitic posts and tweets. And we could see a few weeks ago that his president, the Iranian president, the butcher of Tehran, Raisi, met with the leadership of Hamás, and we know that there were meetings in Syria, in Lebanon, if I remember correctly, with other leaders of the terror armies that surround Israel. So obviously, it's easy to understand that they try to coordinate, the military, the terror armies, the terrorists, the proxies of Iran in our region. They try to be coordinated as much as possible with Iran, because for the long term, their goal is to try and destroy Israel with the nuclear umbrella that Iran will provide them with. That's the long-term goal.
Yes, please.
Ambassador. Hi, Margaret Bashir with Voice of America. Ambassador, you mentioned normalization of relations. Does this mean talks for Israel and Saudi Arabia to normalize are off the table indefinitely? And secondly, President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke today. Biden assured him of additional assistance to the IDF. Could you give us some details?
We are grateful to the support we receive from the American administration, from President Biden. We are fully coordinated with them. I'm fully coordinated with Ambassador Thomas Greenfield here, as I said, regarding, for example, that we don't expect to see any other statement coming from the Security Council unless it's the content that I just mentioned. We don't want to get into specifics again, but the administration is willing to assist Israel. And what was your first question?
On normalization with Saudi Arabia, is that off the table?
That's an important question. We don't see any reason that it should be off the table. Again, we believe that there's a moderate, there are moderate countries in our region that wants to normalize relations and live in peace and coexistence. And definitely Saudi Arabia is part of them. When Saudi Arabia was attacked by the Houthis, or when the UAE was attacked by the Houthis, another Iranian proxy in our region, we always condemned it, because I think that all moderate countries should stand together against radicalism, against terrorism. And obviously, that's what Iran wants to achieve, to separate us all. They definitely want to derail the chances of having normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel. We still want it to happen. We'll do everything that we can to live in coexistence with all of our neighbors.
We have time for one more question. Yes.
Give them two.
Ambassador Neda Tawfiq with the BBC. This format, closed consultations, do you want to see an open meeting of the Security Council? And to those countries who have said this will continue as long as there isn't a peace, a two-state solution, what's your reaction to their statements?
It's either being naive or more than being naive, because if I just describe to you and show you some quotes from the Hamás charter, and I don't remember anyone talking about achieving a peace agreement with Al-Qaeda or with ISIS. Peace cannot be achieved with an organization that its sole only goal is to destroy you and to butcher each and every one of your citizens. So it's only about fighting terrorism and radicalism. So therefore, we thought there's no room now to have a real discussion of the Security Council. Again, we are at a war now in Israel. We have hostages being kept in Gaza. We have a constant threat. There are still indiscriminately firing rockets and missiles at our towns and cities. So we are fully, totally focused on achieving our goal to remove this threat from our citizens.
So you don't see the purpose of an open meeting? I just want to make sure that I have that
I
correct.
don't see any reason now to hold an open meeting.
Time for one more question. Yes, please.
Yeah, on hostages, there are reports. Paolo Mastrolilli with the Italian daily La Repubblica. On hostages, there are reports. Hostages, there are reports of a possible deal in exchange of restoring electricity, the freedom for children and women. Are you willing to consider something like that without getting into details?
We're not even dealing with it right now. As I said, we're not going to share any information or intelligence publicly. I believe you will see that Israel is determined, as I said, to bring back our boys, girls, babies, grandparents who were taken forcefully to Gaza, and we are determined to obliterate the terrorist infrastructure there that is threatening all of us and the future of Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
figure it out. Like how like 3 bad games. Danny's will, adapt to it, respond, and then as long as Tui doesn't get hurt, then Bill's lost. London, that's good. Playing the Jags in London doesn't sound bad.
everyone. Thank you very much for being with us this Sunday afternoon. I have a statement that I would like to read to you, and I'm sure that our colleagues in the rooms behind me, when they meet at 3 o'clock, they will also be listening to this statement. And I want to thank, my brother, Ambassador Maged Abdelaziz, the ambassador of the League of Arab States, for being with us. And also we requested, as the State of Palestine, an emergency meeting of the League of Arab States at the level of foreign ministers in Cairo in the next few days. Regrettably, history for some media and politicians start when Israelis are killed. Our people have endured one deadly year after another. We came to the Security Council month after month, warning of the consequences of Israeli impunity and international inaction. Last October, about a year ago, we stated before the Security Council, the Palestinian people will be free one day or another, one way or another. We chose the peaceful way, the one the international community advocates for. Do not let Israel prove us wrong for our sake and theirs. This is not a time to let Israel double down on its terrible choices. This is a time to tell Israel it needs to change course, that there is a path to peace where neither Palestinians nor Israelis are killed. And it is the one diametrically opposed to the one Israel is embarked on. Israel keeps saying the blockade and repeated assaults on Gaza are to destroy Hamas, military capabilities, and ensure security. Clearly and expectedly, its blockade and assaults accomplished neither. The only thing they did accomplish was inflicting terrible suffering on an entire civilian population. It is time for an immediate end to the violence and the bloodshed, and it is time to end this blockade and to open a political horizon. When Israel now tries to justify yet another assault by the same faulty premise, no one should say or do anything to encourage it down this path. We know only too well that the messages about Israel's right to defend itself will be interpreted by Israel as license to kill, to pursue on the very path that led us here. 370, and the number is rising by the moment, of Palestinians that have been killed already in one day, including children, some barely a few months old. Entire families were killed in their sleep. Will this bring security? Will this advance peace? Where is the international protection the Palestinian people is entitled to when the occupying power violates international law and harms those it is obliged to protect? Aren't Palestinians' lives worth saving? The Palestinian civilians killed, the Palestinian children killed in occupied Palestine could have been spared. Isn't that a moral and legal obligation and a contribution to peace? Why nothing is done when those killed are Palestinians? We need to think hard of what logic we want to see prevail here. If this is about vengeance, then many Palestinians will feel they have much to avenge. If this is about peace, then the way to it is not through further entrenching oppression and occupation, but by ending it. You cannot say nothing justifies killing Israelis and then provide justification for killing Palestinians. We are not subhumans. Let me repeat, we are not subhumans. We will never accept a rhetoric that denigrates our humanity and reneges our rights. A rhetoric that ignores the occupation of our land and oppression of our people. There is no right to security that trumps the right of a nation to self-determination. The fulfillment of our right to self-determination is the only path towards shared peace and security. We chose the peaceful path to achieve our rights, but Israel continued using blunt force against Palestinian lives and Palestinian rights. Israel cannot wage a full-scale war on a nation, its people, its land, its holy sites, and expect peace in exchange. One needs to address the root causes of the conflict. And by doing so, we will be addressing its consequences. We have been calling for a different rationale, a different approach. Justice, not vengeance. Freedom, not occupation. Peace, not war. Our calls should be heeded. The alternative is playing out under our very eyes. Israel has announced dozens of times that it had handled the Palestinian problem by war against our people or peace with others since 1948 till a few days ago in the statement of Netanyahu in front of the General Assembly. Netanyahu held during that speech in these United Nations a map denying the existence of Palestine, a map of aggression and annexation. To all the peacemakers, to all those who believe in the UN Charter and international law, one cannot lose sight of the bigger picture. We need to stand up for the vision enshrined in the resolution of the Security Council and the General Assembly, and to take the necessary measures to ensure compliance with their provisions. We need to uphold international law, not abandon it. Everybody in the room behind me, who will be meeting in a few minutes, agree on the end game. Israel expects and demands political and military support while advancing goals that are fundamentally at odds with international legitimacy and consensus. Its policies are an assault on our humanity, on international law, on peace, and are a threat for its own people. Can those supporting Israel ignore its colonialist and racist agenda? That would be self-defeating. A different path is possible. I repeat, a different path is possible. but it cannot ignore the lives and rights of the Palestinian people. It must guarantee them equal measures of freedom and security. You cannot stand for peace if you do not stand up to occupation. Do it because it is the right thing to do, morally, legally, politically, and because it will save lives. Peace will save lives because it is the only way forward. I thank you very much. We have copies for those who are interested to give it to you. Thank you. And have a good afternoon.
معالي السفير سؤال واحد
Yes,
بالعربي.
yes, I will give you.
معالي السفير سؤال واحد بالعربي.
Fired, the hostage taking, the crimes they've committed against the Israeli people. So that is our hope, that, and we expect all of those countries, those 14 other countries, to strongly condemn this violence by Hamas. It's too early. We haven't even had the consultations yet, but this is not about a statement. This is about condemnation. And so we're expecting all council members to strongly condemn what's happened.
Any more word on Americans? How many Americans are being held, or how many Americans have died?
We're looking into reports. We've heard reports that several Americans may have been taken hostage. Some may have been killed. So we're looking into those reports to see, and we want to try to get the facts. But we are obviously concerned about this, health, safety, and well-being of American citizens in the region right now.
What do you say to your Palestinians who say that we hear now condemnation of what Hamas did, but we didn't hear any condemnation in the past to attacks by settlers, of violence, killing of Palestinian civilians?
You're saying condemnations from whom?
From what country? From the
U.S. We've always condemned violence against innocent civilians. Clearly, we have always done that. But what the focus needs to be on today is the condemnation of these brutal terrorist attacks. This was terrorism, plain and simple, and that kind of thing cannot be allowed to stand. So, like I said, when I go into that meeting, and when we're in that meeting, I expect to hear from the other council members very strong condemnation of these heinous acts of terrorism committed against the Israeli people and their government.
Ambassador, any comment on what the U.S. will do to retrieve hostages?
Obviously, I'm not going to talk about that sort of thing. We need to get the facts, as I mentioned, and we'll go from there. But obviously, we're concerned about any Americans who may have been injured, obviously, if there are any that have been killed, and any that have been taken hostage. So let us get the facts first, and believe me, we will certainly be doing what we can to take care of those Americans who may have been harmed by this conflict.
Was there any attempt to get a unified statement out of the council after this?
Well, we're going to have the consultations. I don't want to prejudge what's going to come out of it, but again, from our standpoint, this is not about having some kind of council product right now. We need to hear from all council members that they strongly condemn what has happened, these heinous terrorist attacks committed by Hamas.
Mr. Ambassador, will you come out and talk to us afterwards and tell us whether you actually heard condemnation from the 14 other council members, and what is your reaction to what the Palestinian ambassador just told us, that Israel should not be allowed to now go and attack the Palestinian people and try to destroy them?
All I can say, I forgot your first part of your question.
You're coming out
Procedure is we don't talk about what went on in close consultations, but I'm happy to come out and, address other types of issues. With regard to the question of about what the Palestinian ambassador said, I haven't heard it, but this idea of creating false equivalencies between what Hamás is doing, and frankly, steps Israel needs to take to secure its security, territorial integrity, and sovereignty is unacceptable. There should be no false equivalencies here. So this is about Hamas terrorism, plain and simple.
Is there anyone who's trying to calm things down on the ground? Is there any talks between different parties?
Well, there's a lot of diplomacy going on in the region. Let me just leave it at that right now. Okay, thanks.
Attacks against the civilians, and what's really important is to prevent the further escalation of the situation and further casualties of civilians, and also what's also important is really to come back to the two-state solution and the peace process.
Do you expect a statement from the country?
Yeah, we are in favor of issuing a statement. As I said, it's very worrying situation, and it's time for and it's important for the Security Council to have its voice heard.
And just to be clear, China does condemn the attack.
We condemn all attacks against the civilians.
Thank you.
Thank you.